Well, we keep monitoring that for you as promised. I do want to focus on these markets and what is a down day in the stock market. We're off about 95 points, had been off about 100 points plus, but a back and forth on this and concerns about the pace of earnings and guidance and all of that. But, you know, Bob Greifeld does not really focus on the nuances here. Big picture for him, he likes markets, he likes capitalism, he's a long-term thinker and player. And a couple of weeks after his friends at the NYSE going kablooey with that outage, he has been smiling since. Not that he relishes his colleagues' pain, but boy, well, he relishes his colleagues' pain. You might recall that in the middle of all of that, Nasdaq was very much open for business, and the world was pretty much acknowledging that and trading off of that. And in this latest earnings period, proof that he is capitalizing on that and that view that Nasdaq is doing okay. Very good to have you, Bob. Thanks for coming.
Glad to be here. Been a long time.
You know, I remember when we were looking at that, at the time when they went down, the political problems and the software issue, that you guys kept going, and you reminded people that you kept going. And I had Dick Grasser, the former NYSE chief, who was a little bit miffed. His view was there's an understanding among exchanges when this happens, you all shut down. I think that was the gist of it. You did not.
No, I think there was probably the understanding 15 years ago. It's not the way the markets work today. It's meant to be a competitive marketplace where, you know, we can all step in and really trade each other's shares. So we gave no thought whatsoever to shutting down.
Well, how much of that was just to stick it in the NYSE?
Not at all. Not at all.
A little bit?
No, not a little bit.
Right.
We were sympathetic to their pain. Maybe we smiled a little bit.
Were you laughing a little bit at it?
But, you know, we have investors. We have to service their needs. We're able to process the trades. The good news is that went well. We made a joint announcement with them last night,
right.
And the only concern during that day was the closing cross, where the price is really discovered on NYSE or Nasdaq. We made an agreement where if they can't process, we'll step in.
All right. Now, part of that agreement you ironed out last night would be that you back each other up, right?
Just for the closing cross.
So what does that mean? That if we had another incident that occurred in the middle of the trading day, as we did a couple of weeks ago,
it would work like it did 2 weeks ago. Others would step in, I think, led by us. Then if we went to the closing cross, we would then run the closing cross for NYSE-listed stocks, publish that. That's especially important to large passive mutual fund operators, so they would get the information they need.
All right, you know, and we've talked about this in the past. It's been a while since you and I have chatted, but this idea that mistakes happen, things go wrong. But you know, the one image I had, Bob, of what was going on the floor of the big board is, and I've been in this business a little while, I can remember there used to be a lot of people on the floor of the big board, a lot fewer now. And it hit me, and maybe that's the biggest image issue for the NYSE to address, that there are still very few people. Trading went on without those very few people. Activity went on without those very few people. And it almost kind of created an image of a dinosaur in real time.
Well, I would say this. Nasdaq pioneered the first electronic market. That was back in 1971. So if you go fast forward to 2015, every single market on the planet is electronic, right? They don't really use the floor. You can argue the
NYSE has electronic operations as well.
Yes, they do, and primarily the floor is a facade for their operation. The electronics are dominating the world today. It's also important to recognize our customers, whether it be retail brokers, institutional money managers. They're coming into us electronically, so the telephone is not used as a method of communication today. So that's the world works. So when the floor went down, NYSE went down, the world was able to carry on.
How many go to your Nasdaq market site to look at it in Times Square? It's all technical, big screens and all that. I mean, when you go to the NYSE, another tourist mecca, you see people on the floor. No, yours is just big old screens and computers, but it generates a crowd, doesn't it?
It generates a crowd, and we use it for our IPO ceremonies.
Right.
So when you go public, you want to have publicity, and that's our method to do it. So yesterday we had Blue Buffalo do their IPO yesterday. We had the dog jumping contest out front. We had a great party, a great crowd, and people were in tears because they've worked long and hard to become an overnight success, and it's a great story. So that's a good use of the facility. It gets great publicity for the firm, great admiration for the employees, recognition for the employees, and it's a fun thing.
Yeah, it's fun stuff now. I used to think, hey, can they make a go of this? Obviously you did. Yeah. Real quickly on these markets and on these concerns, I had TD Ameritrade CEO with me yesterday saying he's worried that the markets won't react well to that inevitable interest rate hike. What about you?
Well, I would say this. I think the interest rate hike has been certainly telegraphed by the Fed. It will happen, and I believe...
You still think it'll happen in September?
I believe it will happen by the end of this year, is what I would say. And I think that action has been, that action this year has been factored into the market's thinking.
Do you think so? Because he doesn't think it has. And there are other people telling me that no matter how many times the Fed telegraphs this, they're not so sure that people are going to take it when it happens.
Well, I understand the point, because there's always the hope that it'll never happen.
Right.
So I think the thoughtful people realize that it will happen, whether it happens September or December, whenever, we don't know. But I think it's factored in. But also I think the clear clinical analysis would be if you raise the market, by a small percentage, that doesn't increase the cost of capital in any material way, and that by itself would not be a drag on fundamental economic progress.
Plus, it could be one and done for a while.
Yeah, it could be. I don't think it will be. I think once they start,
really?
Yeah, they'll
the old
continue
steady
that
process.
Yes.
Bob, always a pleasure seeing you. Thank you.
My pleasure to be here again, Neil.
Robert Greifeld, again, Nasdaq out with some much better than expected earnings news today.